here on CBS Sports HQ as we get set to enter Week 12 of the NFL season with 7 weeks remaining in the season. The AFC crown is up for grabs, and it's kind of wild to say considering Kansas City was undefeated until this past weekend. So with the Chiefs no longer feeling unbeatable, numerous teams in the AFC all of a sudden have a shot at the top seed in the conference as we eye the playoffs. You see them on your screen right now. For more on this, let's welcome back to the show Pete Prisco and Douzable. And guys, let's begin with the Chiefs' pass right now to the #1 seed. Still in the driver's seat as they have a chance, Pete.
Yeah, and the schedule's favorable if you look at it, particularly the next couple of weeks. I mean, Carolina and the Raiders.
Raiders are always tough with them, though.
Yeah, but that's still, and then you get the Chargers at home. Chargers a good team, but you get them at home. You do have to go to Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. That's going to be tough, and you have the Texans. But I
Broncos
still,
too.
Yeah, the Broncos. I still think it's favorable.
Do you have them winning out though?
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
I think they win out. I think they win out. I do. You know, if they need the last game, they'll win that game. But if they don't, then obviously they won't
disagree?
play that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win out. You know who the Chiefs are? They're the 2023 Eagles, right? When you look at their schedule, they're 9-1, right? A lot of one-score games. You see the graphic right here, how the Eagles started that season in the first 11, 10-1, and they struggled down the stretch. When you look at this Chiefs team, out of their 9 wins, Pete, 7 of them were one-score games, and it hasn't looked good. Just like the Eagles didn't look good last year. And we've talked about this. A new left tackle is not coming through that door. A new corner's not coming through that door. Yes, you may get Isaiah Pacheco back. We'll see how healthy he is. You know it's going to take an acclimation period to get him going. Also, Charles Omenihu's coming back, but they've activated him for 2 weeks, and he hasn't showed up. So pass rush isn't just going to come out of nowhere. So when you look at this Chiefs team, I think it could be a struggle for them down the stretch because they should have lost to the Broncos already, right? They play at the Broncos.
Play this game with every team in the league, Lee.
I'm just saying, they remind me of the 2023 Eagles.
Do you see that comparison then, too, to 2023 Eagles?
Here's the difference between the 2023 Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. One has Patrick Mahomes, the other one has Jalen Hurts.
Patrick Mahomes has not played well this year.
He got it going a little bit last week with Worthy, though, and that's one of the most important things that came out of that Bills game.
And he threw an awful interception the first play of the game.
He did, but one of the best things to come out of that game last week for the Chiefs was getting Worthy going.
I mean, we'll see if it pays dividend, but you're saying their schedule's favorable. The Steelers is not a favorable game at Pittsburgh.
They're better than the Steelers.
The Broncos obviously should have beat them at the Broncos. The Texans finally feel like they got some juice back with Nico Collins. And the Chargers is not going to be an easy out.
No, not going to be. None of those games are easy.
That's what I'm saying.
But they're going to win all of them.
They're not going to win all of them. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be the number 1 seed.
They might lose one of them.
All right.
They'll be the number 1 seed.
Agree to disagree because we still have many more teams to discuss here. So we stick here in the AFC. Monday night, you guys, brings us a wild card matchup between the Chargers and the Ravens. Let's start with first what you're expecting in primetime from LA.
Yeah, I can't wait for this game because when you look at the Ravens, this is almost a must-win for them because if they lose this, Pete, they're 3 games behind the Pittsburgh Steelers in the divisional in the AFC North. But the Chargers have a real opportunity. If they're going to win this game, they have their sights set on the AFC West, not just a wild card, just because of what I just talked about when you look at the Chiefs and the teams they have to play. They still have to play the Chargers again, still have to go to the Steelers. So if you're the Chargers, we said, Pete, that we would learn a lot about this team the next 4 weeks, right? Because they had to play the Bengals. They passed that off, right? If they beat the Ravens, they pass that off, and then they have the Chiefs. Well, they could be a team that is not just fighting for the wild card, but potentially the number 1 seed and the AFC West crown. So when you look at Justin Herbert and what he's been able to do with the lack of talent on offense, he is a dark horse, sneaky player for MVP, right? And I say that because when you talk about most valuable, right, and when you look at his team and his roster and the way it's constructed, because they have been in cap hell, they don't have the frontline guys as far as the big names on the offensive side. And when you look at since week 7, Justin Herbert has the 3rd most passing yards in the NFL, which I know is a stark contrast to what we're accustomed to seeing from a Jim Harbaugh offense. And that defense with Jesse Minter is playing at an elite level, only giving up 14 points a game. Now, they gave up a few points more to the Bengals, but yet Justin Herbert was still able to make 2 plays at the end of the game to win that game.
I don't know. They played a 1-score game with a 4-6 team. I don't know what you're talking about.
The most explosive offense in football.
Yeah, but again, it's a 4-6 team, and they played a 1-score. That's the NFL.
I get what you're saying.
I love what this team has done. I think Harbaugh's it really instilled a toughness to him, and I was worried about how they would use Herbert because you know they want to run the ball, you know they want to be physical, but they're letting him play, and I think that's the best thing about them. They should just settle this by putting the Harbaugh brothers in a room and letting them fight wait and see which one comes
the
out.
easiest way.
Which one comes out.
Yeah.
Who would you put your money on? I put it on John, I think.
Really?
I think John's a little bit more feisty. I think Jim might try to overbear him with energy, but I think John's a little bit more feisty.
I think John.
All right, we'll pitch that. We'll see if we get that one of these days. All right, from the AFC West to the NFC West here, I do want to show you what we're working with right now in this division, because we have a 4-team race right now. The Cardinals with the best odds to win the division. But do you see that really being the case, Pete, when it's all said and done?
I think they have a real shot because of their schedule.
Yeah.
I love where this team is heading. And they might not head to where they're going to get this year, but watch out for them in the future. They have money, and I have a lot of free agents, but they have money and they have assets, draft assets. So they're headed in the right direction. It might be coming sooner than we expected. I love what they've done. Kyler Murray's playing great football. The offensive line is tough and physical. The left tackle's been as good as Paris Johnson's been as good as anybody in the league. And then defensively, they get after it. There are a bunch of no-names over there, but boy, do they get after it. And I'm really impressed with where they're at. And look at the schedule. It's a tough one at Seattle. I mean, these next three
games
will define them. But if they win 2 of the next 3, and particularly the 2 against Seattle, they are going to be in the playoffs. Because look at that, close it out. Patriots, Panthers, Rams, and Niners. And so I do think they get in.
Yeah, when you look at this Cardinals team, right, this game is massive for them, like without a doubt, because this game could solidify them getting into the playoffs, right? Because I think Seattle still has an outside chance to win that division. It's interesting, we're not actually talking about the 49ers, right? They remind me of a person that overcooks a steak, right? When you cook a steak, Pete, a lot of times you take it off too early because you can always cook it more, right? But once it gets overcooked, you can't make it more rare. And we saw the 49ers essentially play with their food and play with fire in the beginning of the year. And Pete, they're accustomed to doing that. But when you look at the schedule down the stretch, there's no way they're overcoming that, right? Injuries have been a major issue for this team. And when you look at the schedule again, right, they just lost to the Seahawks. They got at the Packers, at the Bills. The Bears just gave Green Bay all it wanted to. They play the Rams, at Dolphins, the best team in football versus the Lions.
Look at all those
and then
primetime
at the Cardinals.
By the way.
So, I mean, to me, I think they're cooked this year. And unfortunately, it's because they've dug themselves in a hole and the injury bug just hit them at the wrong time. When you don't have your star players out and you're front-loaded by your star players, you see things like this happen. Like, how many times were they up in fourth quarter, right? When you look at the Rams game, you look at the Seahawks game last year, look at the Cardinals game. They were up in the fourth quarter versus divisional foes and lost those games. You can't continue to do that, especially when you have a gauntlet of a schedule. They've overcooked their steak, and I think the 49ers are done this year.
And by the way, if he's overcooking steak, he's going to put it on Instagram and show everybody how well he cooks.
If it was overcooked, it's not going on Instagram. But I don't overcook my steak.
I like my steak well done, my meat.
God, why you eating rubber out here, man?
Don't tell people that.
Eating rubber out here.
You like that blood red?
Yeah. Tender steak inside.
Go kill the cow yourself.
Listen, I am glad that you guys brought up that matchup because, you know, the 49ers, as you mentioned, will see the Packers this weekend, but we have to highlight also in this NFC West race that the Rams will also see the Eagles. 2 opponents right now that are the biggest challengers to the Lions, who we have discussed in the NFC. But, Pete, I know you do not believe that the Eagles are the biggest challenger to the Lions.
No,
Tell us why.
I still think the Packers are.
Okay.
They were my pick before the season. I don't think we've seen the best of the Packers. They've kind of been middling and hanging around. They've had injuries. They've had a lot of injuries. The quarterback was hurt. Yep. He hadn't looked like the same guy, and he still put up some good numbers. I think the Packers are the threat. I worry about the Eagles. I worry about, you know, we talk about their defense, and their defense has really played well the last month of the season. They haven't played anybody I mean, they beat Commanders, but he was hurt. Jaden Daniels was hurt. He wasn't the same guy in that game. And then you look at their offense. They can run the ball. We know Barkley's going to run the ball. They're going to play power football. Are you positive that Jalen Hurts in the moment will make the plays, this version of Jalen Hurts?
Well, it just depends. Do you trust that Jordan Love? Because we saw it last year versus the 49ers where he didn't make the plays.
But he got him into the
when they needed him the most, he turned it over.
Wow. I mean,
so this is going to be a big game for him just mentally, right? Just because he has to get over that hump of not essentially sending the Packers to the NFC Championship game. To me, I trust the Eagles more. And we talk about this all the time, Pete. In the playoffs, you need those frontline star players to make plays. That's why you feel like the Lions may have some issues because Aiden Hutchinson isn't there. Well, the Eagles have those type of players. When you look at what they have on offense, to me, Saquon Barkley needs to be in the MVP category. When you talk about most valuable, the kid had nearly 200 all-purpose yards versus the Commanders last week. And anytime things get dicey or hairy, that's who they turn to, so they can lean on Saquon Barkley. Vic Fangio's done an amazing job with this defense. I know there was a lot of question marks earlier in the season, especially when they had that loss to the Tampa Bay Bucks. But when you look at what they've done over the last 6 weeks, and to Pete's point, yes, it hasn't been against the best competition in the NFL, but you play who's on your schedule, right? They have dominated. I mean, those two rookies, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who should be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, this is a team, because they can win on offense and defense, I think they are the biggest threat to the Lions.
With Nick Sirianni?
Hey, they keep winning.
Yeah.
I will, to button this up, it is interesting because the Eagles right now in the top 5 in terms of odds to win the Super Bowl. All right, get more NFL analysis, highlights, and so much more right here on CBS Sports HQ. We're on all week long. It's all here, and it's all free.